Molly Cooney on TV8, Iowa's news leader.
Good morning. It is Thursday, February 6th. I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Mark McEwen. Paula's in Albertville, all set for the Olympics. They begin just 2 days from now. Welcome to CBS This Morning.
Making headlines this morning, the president unveils his health care proposal. We'll get our first real look in just a couple of minutes.
Plus, Senator John Glenn looks back 30 years to the space flight that launched him into history.
And what's next from the people who have come up with some very provocative ads? Robert Krowich lets us in on a little secret or two this morning from the advertising world. Good morning.
Good morning, Albertville Eve. We leave tomorrow for France. Are you excited?
That's right. We're on the same plane.
Are we going to sit next to each other? Should I let you sleep? Let you have a real flight over there?
The last time we were on an airplane together, what happened?
I was Felix Unger, and you were Oscar Madison. We were the odd couple.
I was just trying to read my Sports Illustrated, and what happened?
What are you doing? Anyway, everything that we talked about, all that and much more coming up on this side of the Atlantic. Now, let's go to France. And Paula.
Hi, Harry and Mark. Good morning, everyone. From Maribel, France, in the French Alps, which will be hosting ice hockey and the women's alpine skiing events. Athletes from some 65 countries are now starting to arrive in the region. One country whose athletes had been invited will not be coming. Coming up in the next half hour, we will have their story. Let's go back to the studio now.
Okey-doke. More from Paul in a while.
Another one of my coats.
Looks good there.
2 days in a row.
What's the weather look like?
Well, remember that song, It Never Rains in Southern California? Well, take a look. Oh, boy. And they should be happy out there. 1 to 3 inches of rain for most of the southern areas today. That rain is going to be working its way up to the north. And, hey, you have something to dance and sing about. There's rain also in the southeast. We'll tell you about that coming up.
It looks good for them. All right. Time now for this morning's news. President Bush is unveiling his long-awaited health care plan today. Randall Pinkston is standing by at the White House with advance word on what is sure to be a hotly debated proposal. Good morning, Randall.
Good morning, Harry. Perhaps it was pressure from Congress, maybe persuasion from the polls. Whatever the motivation, President Bush now has a health care reform proposal. Today in Cleveland, he unveils his prescription for what ails the nation's health care system.
And my plan ensures that people can find health care, choose health care, afford health care, and keep health care.
President Bush predicts his plan will cover virtually all Americans, providing vouchers worth up to $3,750 for low-income families to purchase health care and tax deductions of the same amount for middle-income families earning $80,000 or less. To pay for it, the administration will pay less to Medicaid providers, and sources say wealthy Medicare recipients will pay more for their insurance premiums. But critics complain the president's medicine won't cure the nation's health care ills.
The country is waiting, and if he doesn't do it, it's going to be a cruel hoax. Anything less than cost containment and full access to coverage is a hoax.
Even if Congress doesn't accept his medicine, Mr. Bush has at least inoculated himself against one of the biggest complaints that Democrats had been able to make, that he didn't care enough about the nation's health care system to make any plans at all. Now he has a plan. Harry?
Randall, what is the chance that any action might be taken on this year, for instance?
Well, it's a presidential campaign year. Democrats have a lot of their own ideas. There may be some action, but the question is whether Congress will pass something Mr. Bush won't veto, or whether they can come together. I would predict that nothing much will happen before the election.
All right, Randall Pinkston at the White House this morning. Thank you. On Capitol Hill, the House has authorized a formal investigation into a decade-old political controversy. After a bitter partisan debate, the House voted to look into charges that the 1980 Reagan-Bush campaign schemed to delay the release of American hostages from Iran. Republicans call it political paranoia. Democrats say the charges require a full airing. Scientists are reporting a potential breakthrough in the long battle against muscular dystrophy. Medical correspondent Edie Magnus reports on the latest findings about the cause of this crippling disease.
Did you have a nice day?
Yeah. Scientists now have an important clue to understanding what has gone awry in the bodies of people like Christopher Juncosa, who has myotonic dystrophy, the most common form of muscular dystrophy. They are narrowing in on the gene that causes this progressive muscle disease.
We found where it is. We're going to soon find what it is. We're going to soon find why it causes difficulty.
Where it is on chromosome 19. In people with myotonic dystrophy, researchers discovered a defect, a band of DNA that is larger than normal and chemically unstable. The breakthrough, forged in laboratories in 5 countries, marks the first time a specific genetic abnormality has been linked to myotonic dystrophy.
Oh, dear God, yeah!
It's all very heartwarming to the man who's urged Americans to contribute to muscular dystrophy research for 43 years.
When the people that watch the telethon call in, they are giving us the fodder to go to the scientists and say, go do your thing. And here is the end result.
Hopefully with this, breakthrough, there will be a cure, and Christopher will be able to live a normal life.
Prospects for a cure are still said to be a long way off, but the discovery will immediately produce a better diagnostic test for myotonic dystrophy before symptoms occur. Early diagnosis would allow people to learn whether they are silent carriers of this genetic flaw before they pass it on to their children. Edie Magnus, CBS News, New York.
Another new medical study says the drug calcitriol may significantly reduce the symptoms of osteoporosis in elderly women. The drug, a cousin of vitamin D, raises calcium levels and helps repair spinal fractures common to osteoporosis sufferers. Calcitriol is normally used in treating liver disease. Dr. Jack Kevorkian, inventor of the so-called suicide machine, is charged this morning with 2 counts of murder. They stemmed from the deaths of 2 women in Michigan who used Kevorkian's device to take their own lives. Before their deaths last year, the women made a video describing their illnesses and their wish to die. Kevorkian's attorney predicts the charges will be dropped. At a murder trial in Mobile, Alabama, the courtroom erupted when the reduced verdict of negligent homicide was read. Relatives of the 18-year-old victim jumped over courtroom benches, grabbing and attacking the 15-year-old defendant. The defendant was eventually pulled from the heap and rushed out of the courtroom. Officials in San Diego have declared an environmental emergency. A broken pipeline is spewing partially treated sewage offshore at a rate of about 180 million gallons a day. City officials closed 4 miles of beaches after divers found major breaks in the 29-year-old pipeline. They say it could take 2 months to fix. In business news this morning, the dollar is trading lower. The London stock market was lower in early trading. The Tokyo market closed higher. The Nikkei gained 168 points, an increase of more than 0.75%. And Wall Street opens with the Dow Industrials above 3257. The index lost 15 points yesterday in heavy trading. The Olympic torch is finally nearing Albertville, France, where the Winter Games begin on Saturday. The torchbearers have now passed Grenoble, site of the Winter Olympics 24 years ago, where they were greeted by spectators holding up this year's mascot. And close to the site of the games, the U.S. hockey team played its final tune-up against the powerful Swedish team and won 3-2. The Olympic spirit was in evidence on the ice, but not in the stands. Swedish fans hooted the Yanks and showered the ice with beer bottles and cans. My wife went to that game last night. She said it was great. It's 8 minutes past the hour. Time for Mark and a look at our weather this morning. Good morning.
They've seen Ranger fans at the Garden here. They've been watching videotapes. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ranger fans. Be proud of the Rangers this year. They're doing a great job. Well, there's that old song about how it never rains in Southern California. Well, we're going to change that song to Singing in the Rain. Yes, indeed, 1 to 3 inches of rain from Southern California working its way up through the state of California. You need it. You're going to get it. Happy days. Be careful out there because I used to live there. And I know that sometimes with all the dust and the fume and everything getting on the fumes on the sidewalk, it gets real slippery because of the oil in there. Be careful. 46 will be the high today in Reno, 61 in Eureka, 43 in Boise. Once you get to the north of California, a few clouds, but nothing really to talk about. 68 the high today in Phoenix. Middle part of the country, well, if you're going to be brave, maybe you want to take in a little round of golf out there. What's 40 degrees among friends over 18 holes, right? I would maybe wear some long johns underneath there, but you're going to see pretty decent weather. Texas drying out today. 54 will be the high today in Dallas. You may see a spritz or two throughout the state, but nothing major. You'll see mainly clouds. As you move your way to the east, still rain sitting across the southeast coastline. Excuse me, yesterday they had a day where a few tornadoes did touch down, no real damage to speak of. Not going to have a day like that today, but it's still going to be soggy. 51 in Frankfurt will be the high. We come up to the north, up across the Great Lakes, you'll see a little snow event today. Nothing major there either, about an inch or so. And 35 degrees will be the high today in Brooklyn. We got Brooklyn on the map. And 17 in Watertown, New York. No snow up across New England, but kind of cold. And did somebody say Albertville? Take a peek. Let's talk about it. 35 will be the high there today under mostly cloudy skies. Call them. Warn them. Harry and I are on our way. We'll be leaving tomorrow. That's a quick look at the national forecast. Let's take a look at your weather.
So it's going to be a little bit cooler today. I don't want to hear any whining out of anybody because it's still above normal. We'll have partly sunny skies by this afternoon. Temperature range upper 30s to middle 40s. Wind out of the northwest at 10 to 20. All in all, a good day, so enjoy it.
A wake-up call coming up in the lovely state of Pennsylvania. Harry?
All right, thanks very much, Mark. President Bush told Congress and the rest of us last week that the nation's health care system could use some strong medicine.
American health costs have been exploding. This year, America will spend over $800 billion on health. And that is expected to grow to $1.6 trillion by the end of the decade. We simply cannot afford this.
Today in Cleveland, Mr. Bush will fill in some of the details of his health care plan, and with us from Washington this morning is the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Louis Sullivan. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We have heard about some of this health plan over the last 24 hours or so, some of the leaks, and Randall Pinkston was talking about it a couple of minutes ago in our news block. It seems to be a cornerstone of all of this is the voucher system, which is going to give poor people a voucher for insurance. How is that going to work?
Yes, the way it'll work is that every poor individual will receive an insurance voucher worth up to $3,750 a year for the purchase of health insurance. The President's plan also provides what we call insurance security. That is, proposals to make sure that individuals will not have to fear losing their insurance when they change jobs. This will be of benefit to small businesses as well. The President's plan will provide greater access to health care for all Americans, and some 90 million Americans will benefit from this, either through the voucher system or through tax deductions for their health care insurance premiums.
And the whole idea of this is to make sure that medicine stays in the private sector, right?
Yes, that's because the private sector has been a vibrant source of creativity, innovation, and competition. We need to have those energies in our healthcare system because our healthcare system is the most advanced in the world because of that creativity and innovation. We don't want to lose that.
There are problems with this, certainly. If I'm an insurer and somebody comes to me with this voucher system, but the person on the other side of the voucher is poor, and we know poor people get sick more often. We know they get sicker than people with more money do. Why should I go ahead and cash this voucher in?
The President's proposal would see that in each state there would be at least 2 or more insurance programs available for those vouchers. That will be a requirement for those insurance companies to operate in that state. We also will be giving a mechanism for poor people to change their behavior, to come in early at when they are ill, rather than coming in later through the back doors of our emergency rooms when that care is much more expensive and less effective.
But if I'm in the private sector, the other problem is if, say, I'm an HMO or a hospital organization or something like that, what is going to motivate me to go to an area where there are chronic shortages of medical care?
The President's proposal actually addresses that as well. By strengthening our primary care network, we will expand the number of community health centers and migrant health centers and the number of health personnel for those areas, so that we will not have then what we see now, shortage areas in our rural areas and inner cities. What the President's plan proposes to do is to strengthen our health care network and to provide a financing mechanism and a number of strategies for cost control.
It's hard not to be cynical about it because there are a lot of poor people who are really suffering in this day and age with regard to medical care. And sometimes you just wonder if this sort of method of vouchers and paperwork and everything else is really going to get the care to the people who need it most.
Well, I think the President's plan is one that is comprehensive and compassionate. It provides for the first time a vehicle to finance health insurance for the poor, as well as to help those with incomes up to $80,000. That's 90 million Americans who will be benefited. And rather than being cynical, I think we're very enthusiastic about this because this addresses the need in the United States.
Is there room to compromise? I know this is a plan that you personally have been involved with for more than a year or two now. Is there room for compromise here at all?
No, the President's plan is fundamentally different from the plans being offered by the Democrats. The President's plan does not require an increase in taxes. It preserves the health care in the private sector for the creativity and innovation that brings, whereas the Democratic plan would cause a government bureaucracy 3.5 times the size of our Medicare program, loss of jobs because of the increased tax burden and other things. The President's plan does not do that, but it addresses the need for health care for all of our citizens.
Dr. Sullivan, we thank you for joining us this morning. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mark?
It's 15 minutes past the hour. Next, Senator John Glenn remembers the day America roared into space. And stay with us in our next half hour for Robert Krulwich on ads that make you look twice. Do they really sell the product? Plus, the Olympics, why South Africa won't be there. And Richard Gere in the new movie, Final Analysis.
Iowa's original camping and boating show is coming February 12th through 16th to Betts Auditorium in Des Moines. You'll see motorhomes, travel trailers, fifth wheels, fold-downs, conversion vans.